I am Alec Borsnov. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Public Policy and also the faculty director of our master's program. My research more broadly fits into international security and international development, so I'm happy to talk alongside Nancy and Julio about that. But what I'd like to do now is just kind of give you a basic overview of our program, so we're kind of all grounded or centered in the same place, and then we'll take the conversation from there. So, what's the overall aim of our program? Why would you do this? Well, our goal is to prepare you for a career solving pressing policy challenges, and we think of these pretty large, widely defined. There are a lot of different things that go into it. But what are kind of the key components of what we think it means to be prepared for such a career? Well, the first part is to build expertise grounded in both the past and the present. So, one of the core takeaways from this program is giving you the opportunity to become an area expert and to learn the background of that field and area and think carefully about it by talking to both academics and practitioners and having a kind of holistic experience where you're in dialogue with a lot of different people that have thought about these problems and they care about them a lot. The second piece of this is exposing you to a wide range of analytical approaches and giving you the skills to employ them. So, giving you a lot of different information about how policymakers and policy analysts think about questions, right? What sorts of answers you can get from certain methods and not from others, and then giving you the opportunity to kind of dig or to jump more in depth in the types of methods you think that will help you in your career. And then the final piece of this is matching these foundations, so this expertise and these kind of wide range of analytical approaches, matching them with practical experience. So making sure that you have an opportunity in the program to apply these skills with clients and with government policy actors that really care about answering the questions that you too care about. And so I'm going to walk through in a moment how our curriculum kind of sets you up to do these things. But this is the way in which we approach kind of helping to generate policymakers with a wide outlook, a wide aperture, and a lot of different skills to go a lot of different directions. And so in this context, you kind of might have this question, what does it mean to get a policy degree right now, right? When we have questions about how policy is being implemented federally and elsewhere. One of the nice things about our program, I think, and the way we approach it is that, as our former dean said, a degree in public policy is versatile, equipping you with the skills to navigate complex challenges, adapting shifting landscapes, and to make an impact where it matters most. So one of our students, for example, that I know really well, who was working at USAID for a while, she did budget work for USAID, obviously has kind of looked for different places to work right now. She's actually working as a budget analyst for the city of Washington, D.C. right now, using the same skills we provided in the program and applying them in a different context, but right with the same general approach that she had elsewhere. And so what does this kind of look like in terms of where our students end up, right? So a lot of our students end up in the federal government, state and local governments, nonprofits, the private sector, philanthropy, and research organizations, whether that be think tanks or academia or other places like that. And at the core of it, it's because, as our current dean kind of uh, said this well, right? The reason this happens is that we develop ethical, innovative leaders whose work not only studies public policy and helps to understand it, but tries to shape it and draw on experience from different fields to apply them in the fields that you're working on, the fields that you are interested in. So this is our general approach, and we think a policy degree provides a wide range of options, right, and makes you a pretty dynamic and flexible sort of well-trained individual. Okay. So how do we do this kind of in practice? I said the big stuff before. Our core curriculum is broken into three basic categories. So we have this first governance sequence, which is kind of focused on giving you an understanding of how we approach the kind of intersection of politics and policy, right? And thinking about how leadership can solve these management and accountability problems, and think about including a wide degree of constituencies and folks at the table while crafting policy, and how we think about this in a deliberate, intentional, and consistent way. The second part of the program builds out what we call a quantitative sequence, but these are kind of the core skills to conduct research yourself, to understand how the policy process works, how you present kind of analytical research in terms of crafting and evaluating policies. So this includes a basic intro to econometrics, policy 610, which is a class I teach, and just understand where that's coming from, the way I approach this class. right, is making you a very informed consumer of quantitatively argued analyses. So making it possible for you to engage with work that's quantitatively argued and contribute to that conversation. And we have a similar approach in focusing on both micro and macroeconomics. And then finally, one of the things that kind of is a core part of our curriculum is including this kind of focus on public budgeting and financial management. So making sure you have the tools to understand how to make budgets and how to read budgets. And then the final part of the curriculum is that engagement part I talked about earlier, the kind of project course, as it were. Now, what's useful to think about in terms of our program is that our School of Public Policy is different than a lot of others in that we go what we call from the local to the global, that we cover both questions of local and national US public policy and national public policy more broadly, all the way to international policy. So what I study, what Julio, what Nancy studies as well too, right, spans state borders, moves beyond states to think about international non-governmental actors as well too. And so infused throughout these classes are a number of examples of local public policy, whether that be in the US and another country, right? But also connecting it to broader themes that travel beyond just the local and national level, but to think about big global and international questions. And so that's something you get throughout this core that's in some ways unique to the way we approach public policy at the University of Maryland. And let me talk a little bit about that project course. That's kind of core experiential piece of our program. Because the idea of it is to give you an opportunity within the context of the program to apply the skills you are learning to do a project and deliver a product to a client that actually cares about it in terms of crafting policy, right? In terms of answering, understanding, or even acting on a core policy challenge that they have. And so you can see on the right there a number of the recent clients that our students have worked for. And this year is no different. We have students working in a number of federal agencies and the local government and the state government, working for NGOs and other actors as well too, right? We've been creative about finding really good opportunities for students. So in terms of how that class operates, in the fall, we support our students in finding a client in the policy program and working with that client to develop a scope of work, right? So what's the actual question they care about? How are you going to research that strategy? How are you going to be able to help them to think about that question? That's the kind of core of the fall part, is setting up what this project is going to look like. And the spring is focused on doing the work, right? On doing the research, on working with the client collaboratively during the research process, tweaking it and finding new approaches to get at what they care about, and then presenting the project to the client. A lot of our students end up writing reports for their clients. You write a report internally too, right? What that final product looks like is a synthesis of what you and the client have been working towards for the remainder or for the entirety of the year, for the academic year. So this is a core opportunity to apply the skills we have, right, or you learned in your building, right, in the real world context. Beyond the core, right, which is a fundamental part of the program, right, I also spoke to kind of building expertise and building a kind of core focus in particular sets of areas. So we offer a set of electives and specializations that let you build that deeper expertise, that deeper knowledge of a specific topic, question, area, whatever that might be. So we have 9 specializations. You can also design your own. So ranging from environmental policy to social policy, leadership and management, nonprofit management and leadership, and then of course the international security and international development policy specializations that Nancy and Julio will talk about. And so the kind of core approach of this is that you can choose to specialize and work within one of these areas, or you can pick and choose and kind of pick some key classes from the specializations you care about from another specialization as well too, right? This is your opportunity to build out the knowledge you want. And the other piece of this, as you're thinking about classes within our school, is that by coming to the University of Maryland, you are engaged in a very large university with people researching all sorts of questions and thinking through all sorts of different policy questions from perhaps a slightly different approach from public policy, right? But that means that you have the opportunity to take classes with urban studies, with engineering, right? With computer science, the iSchool, the information school. So you have this opportunity to take advantage of being grounded in the School of Public Policy while reaching out across the University of Maryland, which is kind of a premier R1 university. If you want more info about the specializations and other classes beyond what Nancy and Julio are going to provide now, feel free to click on that link there or scan that QR code. But that's going to be it for me right now in terms of an overview. I'm happy to answer any questions that people have now. Also happy to answer questions at the end. Feel free to pop them in the chat as well too. Well, if there aren't questions, I'll pass it on to Nancy as well now too. But thank you again for being here, and I look forward to hearing any thoughts, questions, other stuff that you might have.
Thanks, Alec.
So I'm Nancy Gallagher, the head of the International Security and Economic Policy Specialization at the school, and also the director of the Center for International and Security Studies of Maryland, which is a research center that employs many SPP graduate students, brings speakers to campus, and does lots of other things to enhance the education that students receive at the University of Maryland. Most other programs either teach students to analyze various problems in international relations or to manage public policy problems that face local, state, and national level governments. But as Alex has told you, we give students the interdisciplinary expertise and the analytical skills they need to figure out what should be done about urgent international problems like rising competition among major powers, civil conflict in Africa, global pandemics, nuclear weapons, emerging technologies, and much more. But we also give them the practical skills that they need to get agreement on a course of action among many different types of stakeholders in the United States and abroad, and to effectively implement those policy solutions. Alec has already talked about how our program is structured. We have students do a broad set of core courses so that people have the skills needed to work across a wide range of policy problems in a variety of different roles. I've had former ICEP students go on to be top executive branch officials in numerous countries, members of Congress, NSC staffers, diplomats, intelligence community leaders, founders and heads of non-governmental organizations, professors, think tank researchers, business executives, and much more. None of our former School of Public Policy students have been elected President of the United States yet, but one was almost elected President of Peru. Students interested in international policy can deepen their knowledge by completing coursework in the ICEP specialization, the International Development specialization, or both. The requirements for the ICEP specialization are 2 foundational courses: International Security Policy, which really focuses on the substance of security policy from World War II to the present. And that's a course that I typically teach in the fall, and we have another faculty member who teaches it in the spring. And then the second foundational course is the foreign policymaking process. And that's where you really learn why some administrations are much better at putting their ideas into action, and other administrations have chaotic processes and can't actually get much done. In addition to the 2 foundational courses for the ICEP specialization, you also choose at least 2 ICEP electives from a list that includes science, technology, and security, cooperative security, arms control and nonproliferation, international economic policy, civil conflict, cybersecurity policy, intelligence policy, and security and governance in Africa. Students can also do study abroad courses. You'll hear more about that in a minute, and electives offered by other faculty at the school on topics like data analysis and visualization, which is taught by Professor Charles Harry, a former senior intelligence official responsible for briefing high-level government officials with short attention spans, and climate and energy policy, taught by Professor Nate Hultman, who was recently a senior advisor to the Presidential Special Envoy for Climate Change, John Kerry. Like Professor Harry and Hultman, most of our full-time faculty member have worked in the policy world as well as in academia. So Professor Lena Andrews was a CIA analyst before joining the school. Professor Waldevarium, who's now head of our PhD program, served as a staff member on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And I worked on arms control and nonproliferation in the State Department during the Clinton administration and still do lots of work that informs US and foreign governments' decisions about nuclear weapons, space security, responsible uses of AI, and other topics. Students at the school benefit from the work that I and my colleagues do with and for practitioners in many different ways. For example, my students have used data that I've collected on Iranian public opinion for their own research. They go with me on a field trip to the State Department for career development each year, and have regular Zoom interactions with students at a Russian institute that trains their experts on US politics and US Russian relations. We also have a highly accomplished group of senior practitioners who teach at the school, one of the great benefits of being near Washington, D.C. For example, our intelligence policy course is taught by Ann White, who was Deputy Chief of the Counterterrorism Target Office at the National Security Agency, among other intelligence community roles. And our foreign policy process course has been taught in recent years by Erin Manis, who has worked on emerging technologies at the Department of Homeland Security, DOE, Department of Energy, and other places. Because we're located close to DC, our students can get internships with government agencies, congressional offices, prominent think tanks, NGOs, IOs, and even foreign embassies during the fall and spring semesters, not just during the summer when students at programs all over the country are competing for those positions. And our faculty's professional networks and our location near DC also enable our students to do some really exciting capstone projects for a client in the policy world. Last year, for example, we had one student doing a cyber risk assessment of US bases in the Indo-Pacific for the Secretary of Army's cyber advisor. We had another one who did a project on arms trafficking for the Organization of American States, and a third who developed recommendations for navigating transitions when aid projects must be abruptly closed for Catholic Relief Services. So that's a little bit about the ISEP specialization. And if you have immediate questions for me, I'm happy to answer them or turn it over to my colleague to talk about the IDEV specialization.
Thanks, Dr. Gallagher. Okay, Julio, feel free to take it from there.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I'm sorry if I cannot be understood well. It's just that my internet, for a reason, is not working very well today. It used to be really good, so sorry for that.
I can
second
hear
thing
you
is, good
well,
morning.
so hopefully it'll
Yeah.
stick with it.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. This is really exciting. Thank you very much for being here and listen to what our school could do for you. Before sharing with you the specialization in development in the school, I would like to tell you that my comments are going to be given from three different perspectives. The first one, as a director of international programs at the school, but also full clinical professor. The second one, as an alumni on the school. I studied my PhD many years ago, so I have additional information that could be useful for you if you decide to do graduate studies in our school. But the third one is the unusual experience that I had in public policy that maybe you can feel empathize, that maybe you can feel related to, because I've been working not only in international organizations, designing public policy in international development, but also I've been in government. I was deputy prime minister in the Peruvian government. And at the same time, I was in politics. I ran for president in Peru. And aside from that, I was partner at Deloitte, this international consultancy in the creating the new area to advise the government across Latin America. So I'm going to give you information from these three different perspectives because I believe that is going to be useful for you since you are looking for opportunities in trying to grow and to take the best from you. So I'm going to start for what our school offer in terms of of the specialization and international development. What we do, we have 3 mandatory courses and 7 elective. But what we do in general is try to understand why there are rich countries and why there are poor countries. What is development? What is the reason why, historical, economically speaking, why there are countries that has developed more over time and others that has lagged out? And try to understand very specifically what is the process of getting to that. In order to do that, we offer 3 mandatory courses. The first one is international development, which deals with this issue in a much broader way. The second one is international economic policy, which are the study of the discussion of the few tools that governments, countries has in order to deal with cross the border markets, right? Microeconomics and macroeconomics are areas that discuss the tools and the ways that you can approach the economic challenges in one country, but what to do when you are engaged in a global scenario. So for that, there are other kind of tools and other kind of understandings, and that's why we offer international economic policy, as I said. And finally, the other mandatory course is developing challenges in the developing world, which the developing world, as you may know, have their particular challenges in order to reduce the gap in comparison to the developed world. So in that course, we discuss all the issues that are related particularly with the challenges in the developing world. The 7 elective courses are courses that are dealing with foreign aid, other ones in security, international security, the environment, things like that. And at the same time, we have courses that we can offer abroad. We have courses that we are offering in Indonesia, in Peru. We are launching a new one in Morocco. And those are the kinds of possibilities that you have. So that's the core design of the international development. And we have the advantage in our school of the fact that we have the tradition of dealing with international issues since our creation. So that's important. It's in our DNA, and that gives us the relevance in the area to deal with these global issues. So that's the specialization. But now I would like to share with you my point of view from the other perspectives on how I see the school. And I see 3 big important things that the school could offer as a person like me, that I am a Peruvian, that I decided to go abroad and grow. And the first one, it's something that is not related exclusively with the school, but it's extremely important, which is that the school is in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And that's a big game changer. There are a lot of resources that you can have access to. I'm not saying only information, but also networking opportunities. As Alec and Nancy mentioned, the possibility of engaging in the capstone course with clients that are around Washington, D.C. Remember that in Washington, D.C., we have all the international organizations, not only the embassies, not only the very well-known World Bank or IMF or the Inter-American Development Bank, but also we have think tanks, we have non-profit organizations, hundreds that are dealing with global policy issues. The second thing that I found really interesting in our school is this very nice combination between theory and practice. I thought in other universities, I engage with other universities in the United States, but very few of them have this very clear approach of understanding that theory and practice should go together. And you find that spirit in every single class that you go. Most of our professors are dealing with real life projects. Most of our professors are not dealing with particularly theory, but they're engaged in projects that have to do with other countries or projects that are related with the federal government. So this mix of practice and theory, it's pretty unique, and it was really useful for me because it told me, why theory makes sense and how theory can change lives if we understand how to apply it in the real world. So that's the second thing. And the third thing that I found really interesting about the school is the opportunities to know the world. And I'm going to be specific for that. When you are at the school, you not only receive this world perspective of all the things that my colleagues have mentioned, I already shared with you at the very beginning, but at the same time, concrete opportunities to go to other countries as part of your program. I'm going to mention two. The first one is the policy project that Alec and Nancy already mentioned, in which international programs of our school gives you the opportunity to do research related to that project in other countries. If your capstone course, your client is the government of India, you could have the possibility of going for a few days to try to collect information, and the school help you to complement the funds that you need in order to do that. Even if you are dealing with an issue in Latin America, but you don't need to go to a Latin American country, but you need to go to California, or maybe you need to go to Texas to speak to a specialist, it's the same method. We help you, and we help you to arrange all the logistics and everything. I am in charge of that, so that's why I know very well that for you to do that. So that's a very important thing. But the second concrete opportunity is the possibility of you of taking credit courses in other countries. Now we are offering 3 courses, one in Indonesia, and you can explore environmental policies and sustainability policies in Indonesia, 3 weeks in Indonesia. The second is in Peru, to deal with the environment and the relation with communities in Peru, which is extremely important in the Amazon. You know, Peru has a big part of the Amazon. And the other course is in Morocco, in which we're going to explore public leadership and international development, and how can we develop a methodology to try to understand why developing countries developed and others not, in the context of the development of this country of Morocco. So those are the other issues. And finally, I'm going to end it up here. It's my perspective as a person who have been working in all these different areas in public policy, a weird case. What I found about the school, why it has been so important to me, for something that Alec mentioned, is extremely versatile. Versatile. The school give you the foundational tools to deal in different areas. It doesn't provide you tools to a specific sector of public policy or a specific kind of organization or challenge. It gives you few tools that are foundational, that could give you the mobility and the flexibility to work in different areas, in different organizations with the same effectiveness. And I found that extremely helpful, because in every place I've been, in government, in politics, in international organizations, in think tanks, in corporate consulting, all of these places, I use these tools. And that's something that I found amazing from our school. So I'm gonna stop then. And if you have questions, if you want to engage personally, to ask particular, to have particular information about the problem, you can reach me directly.